Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of From Page to Stage. I'm your host, Wendy Corner, and this podcast is for you if you are an author. Now, what do I mean by an author? Somebody who has a solo book out, somebody who has a contributory book out, you put in your chapter. If you're an entrepreneur, you're an author, because I can guarantee you've either got a blog and or you're on social media. So you have published something. Welcome. That's the first bit, the stage bit. Some people have done both page and stage of our guests and quite happy on both. Some of them are more on reluctance to get onto the stage. Got the page bit, keep working on that one. So that's who this podcast is aimed at. We have inspiration and we have aspirational guests. Today, I am super excited to bring this conversation to you with a good friend of mine, Kez Wickham St George, based in Perth, Australia. Now, I could tell you quite a bit about Kez, but I'm going to let her do it herself because she knows herself far better than I do. Kez, over to you, my love. Tell us a bit more about yourself and how you came to be where you are now.
Okay, well, I began as a child, really, writing little snippets. I had polio as a child, so I was bedridden for about a year. And I had a wonderful school teacher, Miss Jelly, who knew that I had a penchant for writing. Even though they were only 1 or 2 liners, every week, I couldn't wait for her to arrive, and they would sit me up in my little bed, and I would, with a little bit of difficulty, write. And so that's how I began. And then I won a gold star. And that gold star has been ahead of me most of my life. Now, it was only for a 2-liner story about the Easter Bunny, but I put my heart and soul into that because I still believed in the Easter Bunny then. I was very little. So that's what started me off, was writing and knowing that people were reading my words. Now, it didn't generate the awe it does in me now that, oh my goodness, they are reading my book. I'm still quite naive when it comes to how public I am and how public my books have become. But I actually like the naivety because then I don't get nervous or scared about it.
Mm-hmm. So I'm picking up a Kiwi accent. You were born and brought up in New Zealand?
I was. Yes, born and brought up in a place called Nainai in Lower Hutt.
Okay. And when did you go to Australia?
I came to Australia nearly 30 years ago. I've been saying 20, then I counted them back. It's nearly 30 years ago. I thought, gosh, where have those years have gone? And I came to Australia as a well-known New Zealand artist because I do a lot of artwork.
Right.
And then I found I was always do it as little snippets. And I called it a diary, but they call it journaling now. And I would write at least a page, maybe 2 pages every night before I went to sleep, letting out the happiness, the angst, the do's, the don'ts, the where I'd been, just putting it all into the book. Yeah. And then I would settle down. It actually gave me a good night's sleep.
Yes. It's a fabulous practice, isn't it? Because as you said, it takes the stuff out of your head, puts it out on paper, and then you can literally close the book on the day.
That's right. That's how I felt. And of course, my husband was working up in the mines.
Okay.
So there was no one to have a good moan to, how's your day been? Oh, well. So, yeah, yes, I found journaling very helpful, but I also found an answer to the second question you're going to ask me.
Oh, you're preempting, are we? Audience, I've timed her ahead of time so she knows what's coming. So that's a bit of a joke on that one.
I found it.
Will I ask the second question?
Sure.
Okay. Kez, tell us about your speaking journey. So you were how old when you started your writing?
I would have been in my 50s. Serious writer.
No, right back.
Right back. I would be 7.
7. Okay.
Yes.
And you got published for the first time
at 50.
Gold Star?
Yes.
That was, you were how old?
I was 50.
50. Right. And what about your speaking bit then? Because as you said, this is from page to stage. So tell us about your speaking journey.
My speaking journey's been varied. As a well-known artist, you always have to stand up at the exhibition, at the opening night, and say a little bit about yourself.
Yeah.
But then you'd find if you were a co-creator and had another artist in the room, they would go, oh, I don't know what to say. You say it. You're good at speaking. And I wanted to say, I'm just as nervous as what you are. But being the sort of person I am, always willing to help, I would then introduce them and have a little, I'd always be ready, have a little piece written. If they didn't want me to say it, fine. If they did, it was there. I've never been, oh, well, I have done sort of, off the limb, done a little speech, but really and truly, preparation is the best thing in the whole world. So that's how I started speaking. And then coming over here to Australia, I joined Toastmasters.
Mm-hmm.
And I joined a club called the Penguin Club, which had nothing to do with the ocean. It was that you had to wear black and white to the meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Was that in Perth?
So, yes.
Mm.
Yes, it was. So they've dissolved since COVID. I think they've completely dissolved. And once I moved from where I was living to where I was, permanently going to live, we bought a house over here. I left them and decided that my speaking days would be more into the workshops that I run. So
was the were the workshops for artists, or were you focusing in on the writers by this point?
My workshops, because I am a creative artist, I do a lot of what would you call it? Well, floral art. It's sometimes called a hobby art, but it's not. It's quite a genuine art form.
Mm.
And canvas work, anything to do with creative art. I involve them because I encourage people to doodle, and I don't know what your viewers will know what doodling is, but it's coloring in like a photograph or a picture or something like that while you're speaking. It actually helps with the thinking process and the speaking. For me, helps with both process, speaking and thinking. So if I was sitting here and I start to doodle, it's because the words have gone and I need to concentrate and then speak. So in my workshops, that's what I do. I run a writer's workshop, but I bring the art into it because most writers I have found are also sneaky little artists and they don't tell you about it.
Really?
Mm.
Okay. That's one of those things where I've experienced that people consider themselves to be authors, but not speakers. And that's another label, isn't it? An artist, because a lot of people will consider an artist or being creative as somebody who does pick up a pen or pencil or other form of medium. But you can be creative in so many different ways, can't you?
I have found so. I have many friends who are in the art world. I have many friends in the writing world, the authorship world. But what they don't tell you is they either doodle or they are serious. These big colouring and books you get with, you can colour in and all sorts of stuff. They're serious about that sort of stuff. They don't tell you what goes on behind the scenes.
Yes.
And that's a shame. We should all be honest.
Yeah.
Excuse me. We should all be able to be honest and say, I'm a doodler. I do this. I do that. There's nothing wrong in bringing out the creativity. Colour, to me, colour speaks words.
Right.
So when I'm doing a big canvas, I don't know if you can see the one behind me.
Yes.
But when I was doing the big canvas like that, my thoughts are actually all about the next book I'm writing.
Okay. So for you, the creative thing of the art actually helps you to distill what you're going to put in your next book.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
I think about this. I don't think about the title or how many characters. I think about the scenarios,
Mm.
and I think about where I want the book to go. Like, do I want it to be, as a writer, when I was doing at university, and I was doing a creative artist course, they taught you also a few things about writing,
Mm-hmm.
and it's called tracking. And so as a writer, you go up a hill, you go down a hill. So you take your clients excitingly up the hill, and then you scoot them down the bottom, because there's high and low in every chapter and in every story. It's the same with your artwork. There's a high and there's a low.
Mm-hmm.
When you're doing a basic color, it can be really boring.
Mm-hmm.
You're using a basic color, that's the base of your painting, and it might be white, black, green, who knows what you
Mm-hmm.
choose. I find that just putting a brush up and down the canvas, like, oh, I want to go to sleep. So I start to create what's going to go on the canvas. Who do I want to see this canvas? Who do I want to read my book? And it's all planned in my mind as I do my art piece.
Mm. Beautiful, beautiful. I'm curious, audience. Those of you who are already published authors, now Kez is in the fiction genre, but those of you, whether you're fiction or non-fiction, do you have something that you do that puts you in the right flow for getting your words down on paper? I mean, we talk about writer's block, but I'm wondering, do let us know underneath the video when you see this on YouTube. Do let us know what you do to help you get into the flow if you feel as though there's a bit of a block there. That's really fascinating. Thank you, Kez. Now, I would say I don't class myself as an artist like that. I am creative. You'll find me feeling much more happy with a camera or in the kitchen. Those are my two majorly creative bits. And yes, storytelling, but generally out loud. So yeah, and as you were saying about the emotional highs and lows, as speakers, we so need to do that with the stories that we tell. Take your audience on an emotional journey, because you said otherwise. Same
right.
Yeah.
Background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've fallen asleep, and so's the audience. So yeah.
That's right.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So your speaking started off with the workshops around the art, and then you've moved.
Yes.
Then you've moved into doing workshops around the writing. Is that correct?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
That's what I did. Yeah. But now I involve both.
Okay.
So very soon I'm going to go to a little shire in WA and do a writing course. And the next day I'm doing a floral art course.
Okay.
Both with the same audience.
Oh,
Mm.
right.
So I want a descriptive. I want you to describe to me, as I say to my clients in the room, first of all, why are you doing this?
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, what you're feeling as you're creating. So they know how to write. I teach them how to write. Some of them are excellent. Not everybody needs to know how to write. Some of them come along to pick up tips of writing, but then they come back to the floral art class and they start to realize that what they're doing is telling a story.
Mm-hmm.
So they're encouraged to write about it.
Right. Ooh. So, I mean, it is really a part, the storytelling element, isn't it? And with the fiction, you've got literally what you can go wherever you like. With the non-fiction, generally, I find the authors are telling a bit about their story and how they now apply that to their business, because a lot of them are entrepreneurs. Most of them are entrepreneurs. So it is still telling a story. And that's the point, isn't it? Because if you think about it from an evolutionary perspective, how did we pass on information? Through story and through artwork, long before there was ever orthographics and we actually wrote things down. Yeah, beautiful.
In my younger days, Wendy, my mother had, although she wouldn't call them ladies' circles, every Saturday morning we would have aunties and their friends. Sometimes there was quite a few, sometimes there was not. There was only just a couple. But they would tell their week, how their week went. Now, some of them in those days, domestic violence was very much in the know. Well, sorry, I should reverse. It was kept a secret, but around the table, these women could tell my mother and the other woman who would actually commiserate, have a shoulder for them. It was all storytelling. We'd have good stories, we've had bad stories, we've had okay stories. And how I got to know about storytelling was, see, I'm part Māori. So you go into the marae and you would hear storytelling, totally different from my mother's side, who was very, very English, totally different from her side of around the table. I was a little girl, so I would be told to sit under the table with my colouring and books. Do you see how the two have emerged in my life?
Oh,
and I use it.
Wonderful is that? Yeah. Beautiful. So we've discovered that you've been writing since you were 7. You've been a published author since you were 50. You've been doing your other creative stuff all the way through life. You're combining the two now in a very powerful workshop. You do those clearly in person. Are there in, I mean, I know this is a new venture for you. You're in Western Australia. Are you planning to take those to other places as well, maybe interstate in Australia?
If there was interest, yes.
Cool. Audience, show some interest. We will have Kez's contact details in the show notes. But if this is something that you can relate to, are you an artist? Are you somebody who helped that creative thing with pen in a different way? Pencil, crayons, whatever the medium happens to be, paint or whatever. Does that help you to get into flow? Because if that's something that you would like to explore further, please do get in touch with Kez.
Definitely.
If she's finding interest outside of WA, Western Australia, for those of you living in the States, WA is not Washington in this context, okay? It's Western Australia. Beautiful. Thank you. So you got this workshop that you're launching. When is your next book out?
It's being launched on October the 11th.
Okay.
In Melbourne.
Excuse me. It's being launched in Melbourne.
Yes.
Fabulous.
So normally with books, I go local and launch local. This time I was invited to take it to a company called Able Publishing, who do massive book launches, and once a year they have a beautiful evening with speakers, with authors, and yes, I've applied and been accepted.
Excellent, excellent. So that book is going to be launched at that evening.
Yes.
If you have links for pre-sales, we can pop those in the show notes for this. Even if you don't, once it's published, audience, you may not be aware, but these show notes are dynamic. So when a guest comes back to me and goes, oh, by the way, this is launched, we've got a new book out, we've got this, we've got that, I go back in, update the show notes, and put out something on the socials. Do you remember that wonderful conversation I had with Kez back in, it's August, it will be August by the time this goes out. Well, you should see what she's got coming up now. Plug. Okay, so that's how we work it on from page to stage. So tell us a bit of, are you allowed to tell us a bit about your new book?
Of course.
Or will that be spoiling it?
Of course, I can even show you a photo of the cover.
Oh, do.
I'll have to leave the screen for a second.
Okay, we'll stop
Go and get it.
temporarily. That's beautiful. Tapestry. Tell us a bit more about tapestry then, because we know it's coming out in October, but give us a bit more of a clue without spoiling it completely.
Okay, so I can actually just give you a little bit about the back. An exorcism had begun, and soft candlelight played with the black silhouettes, because I'm talking about the ghosts of my past. They each filtered into my inner vision. So I went right back to the 17th, 18th century of the snippets of gossip I'd heard as a child. Now, as a child, everything's enhanced, everything. Yes. The daisies you're looking at, the conversations you hear, you're not allowed to join in. So it's in your head and you begin to play with it. So the snippets of gossip I heard started off in the 18th century. So I thought, hey, who do I know that was my maternal? So my great-great-great-grandmother.
Yep.
And she was a healer.
Right.
A druid healer.
Okay.
So it's come through
your mother's side. Your mother's side comes from the UK, was that right?
Yes. Mum comes from, or did come from, Jewish English. Yeah.
Okay.
So
with a druid in the bloodline.
Yes.
Got it.
So she apparently, her father sold her to a druid to pay debts, this particular woman, and I tell her story. Now it's purely creative because I don't know her story.
Yes.
Purely creative. And then I pop into where she does her thing, and then we now have a child. And that's my great-great-grandmother. And I do know a little bit about her, a little fraction, but again, had to be extremely research, and very creative, because you have to get things right.
Yes.
So she was brought up as a healer, which was called a witch way back then. So then I went back into, I come right forward to today. So I've got great-great-great-grandmother of great-grandmother, great-great-great, then my grandmother, who I knew well, who I knew very well. And she was a spiritualist. So you can see how all those snippets of faith and religion have come down through the line. And people wonder why I'm spiritual. So it's like I just had this inner knowing that I'm fine. And it's not even where health, mental, physical, when you have knowledge, and you must gain that knowledge. And this is what these women did. They gained knowledge to create a freedom. So I come right down to the day. I had so much fun with this part of the chapter. It was my mother. And how do you tell? This was the hardest part to all your viewers. I found it really hard to explain the love relationship from my parents, my mum and my dad. Now, mum's the main character, but dad pops in and out. You have to pop him in and out occasionally. I mean, he sired me, so he has to be around somewhere. So it's like a major story about all these women that have fought for their own particular way of freedom, Wendy. And I'm really passionate about the freedom that we have now as women to tell our story. There's no need for that, for the some of the things I see, I think there's no need for it. Tell your story. That's all we have to do. Because our family, not so much, the neighbors or anything like that, but our family need to know their lines. Yeah. And by their, I don't mean on stage lines. Yeah. I mean, we need to know our lineage.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we inherit, as you pointed out from your side, I mean, the thread, picking up your tapestry,
yes,
the thread that runs through it, that is almost at a cellular level. We do pick things up through
of course, of course. And also, my grandmother, when she died, Dad found notes, long notes, like diary notes.
Mm-hmm.
So she was a writer.
Ah.
My mother was a poet, songwriter.
Mm.
Never wrote stories, but loved her poetry and actually got published as a songwriter.
Right.
So, and this is when I was in my 30s. I did
Mm.
not know. I
Really?
did. She never told me. She never told anybody. She made Dad keep it a secret because then it was looked upon as tooting your own horn.
Okay.
Yeah. So she kept the secret. When she died, I found out.
Mm.
Imagine the fun we could have had if you were more like me and very open about it. You
But I
know,
mean,
I
for
be very open.
you two could have been really creative, and the conversations that you had.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. What a shame. What a shame.
That's what she was taught. You
Yeah.
skite about things. And it was not skiting. It's telling people that I have such joy in poetry and songwriting. I have myself tremendous joy in working on art and amazing joy in writing a story. Once I start, my husband has to remind me to take a breath.
Yeah. Oh, what a shame that your mum didn't let on.
That
'Cause
was
she could have,
that day then.
yeah, I know. Because I mean, she could have really been, yeah, you two could have had wonderful creative conversations. But yeah, anyway, it
Yep.
was what it was. So Tapestry comes out in October.
Yes.
You've got this new workshop that you're launching. When are you starting to do that?
That will be the 9th of September when I do the writing class, and the day after that's the floral art class. But
Right.
that's over in a little shire called Boyup Brook, and then I work from Boyup Brook, and then I go to Walpole, and then there's in Serpentine there's another class, a workshop waiting for
Okay.
me.
How many do you have in a workshop?
Pardon me?
How many
Say
people do
again?
you have in a workshop?
Anyone from, I'm very comfortable at 6 to 10.
6 to 10.
But at the last mosaics workshop I held in Walpole, there was 20 women,
Gosh.
all wanting to know about mosaics. And my first, over in Australia here, your first sort of call is safety. So we had to go through the safety rules, and they get very bored. They get fidgety and 20 women all wanted to get their little hammers and break up the china.
Get on with it. Get on with it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had two classes, around about 20 in the morning and about 10 in the afternoon. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So we discovered that you started writing when you were 7.
Yes.
Big girl publishing around 50. How many books have you got out now?
14.
14.
Mm.
Whoa. Audience, you can tell I hadn't clocked there were that many. So yes. Fabulous. On average, how often do you produce a book?
One a year.
One a year, right.
That's what I try. They're big books. They are big books. They are 400 pages, 350, 400 pages.
Right.
But this year I've decided to produce the big book. And then if I have the time, and publishing takes money. So if I have the time and the money, I would love to produce an adult fairy tale.
Oh, nice. Where would that be set?
It's I have a penchant for old England.
Well, there are plenty of, particularly if you go to the southwest into the Celtic zone, Cornwall. You've got a very strong tradition in the Celts of the fairies.
I've been watching it. I often watch their YouTubes. How cute.
Audience, you may or may not know that I spent 20 years in Scotland, and I consider that to be my home. And there's a thing called the time between times. You familiar with that, Kez?
No.
The further north you go in the Northern Hemisphere, the longer the dusk twilight period. and the sun can go down and it still not get dark. In midsummer, where I used to live, the sun would go down around 10:30 at night, and you could still walk around without a torch at midnight. Sun would be up by 3. It was a very short night. And in that long dusk period, that long twilight period, and the same went for dawn, that was when the portal to the other world was at its most fluid.
Okay.
And you could see the green men and the fairies coming out.
The leprechaun.
Well, no, green men in the UK, in the on the mainland Britain, but in leprechauns would be in Ireland, yes, but similar things. I mean, the green man in England and Scotland was more of an adult, not a diminutive little fella like a leprechaun. They were gnarly, and there's so much folklore around that. We'll talk about that off air.
Okay.
Audience, if you're interested, watch out for the next fairy book. Oh, that could be fun. Again, we will update, and when Kez brings that book out, we'll definitely have her back on to talk about it. Beautiful. Okay, so that's what you're working on at the moment. And as we're winding up, I'm going to ask you, how do you embody your words when you take them from page to stage?
When I take them from page to stage, I truly believe in authenticity. There is nothing like seeing the real Kez on stage. So if I get emotional, that's what I pass on. I'm emotional about this. And I don't mean about crying. I mean, I know my voice gets strong. It gets almost to the stage where you just have to believe me, because this actually happened. And so I try and bring, when I'm from page to stage, as in my books, I try and make women recognize the strength that we're born with. We don't have to bang a drum.
Yep.
We actually, when you look at it, and I've said this on stage, we are the only species, human species, that carry 2 hearts and 4 lungs at one time in our life. So when you look at it, we are superhuman beings. As women, we produce life. And if you don't produce the life, then we give into other lives. We're always giving. Females are giving. And we're solid. And there should be more, and this is what I put in my talks on stage, that if we could recognize that being a female is quite an honor.
What a contrast to how an awful lot of the world feels about it. Yeah. Beautiful.
I mean, I don't believe that, and I may go against a lot of people watching, or a lot of their beliefs. I believe actions are taken notice when you actually act them out. Not say, I'm a great leader, I'm a great community leader, I'm a writer, I'm an artist. Believe who you are and do your work. So all my life, as a working woman, I was a teacher. And I always taught my class, first thing in the morning, we do a motivational thing. Most of them were females. Feel good about yourself.
Yes.
Don't rely on other people to make you feel good. It's not going to work. But feel good. And that's what I try and present on stage, Wendy. Believe who you are and enjoy it. Don't hide it.
Yeah, Mum. Bless her. She gave you a wonderful role model of how not to do it.
That's right.
She said, of her time, but now things have changed. Yeah,
that's right.
Step into who we really are. So the authenticity is the thing that you embody. Beautiful. Well, that's the thing. I mean, this day and age, if you're applying to go to some form of presentation, artwork or whatever, you're going to look it up. You're going to look up who the artist is. Artist, speaker, author, fill in the blank. And if you are the same right the way across all the socials, because let's face it, everybody's on socials these days. If you're the same across the board, then there's that tick box of, okay, maybe I can trust them. They've got some credibility. They're authentic. It's not a case of, as we sadly so often see, what's portrayed and then what comes out of the closet. So yeah, being authentic. Love it. Thank you, Kez. Wow, we've covered a bit of ground, haven't we?
We have. There is one more thing I'd like to add, Wendy.
I was going to ask, do we have any final words?
Don't let age enter into it. Don't let your age enter into what you want to do. For instance, I was in Bali 6 weeks ago, and a woman in her 40s, now I'm in my 70s now, but a woman in her 40s got up on stage and floored me with her speech. It was so powerful, so beautifully put. And I thought, you're 40, what do you know? My first thought was, but you're only 40, you haven't lived a life. Oh man, she was an American. The way she told me, and I felt she was speaking to me personally, the way she explained about a simple subject like being fired from your job. That's all it was. Her emotional upset and how she got over it as a woman. And she had her family and friends, of course, all behind her. But now she's an international speaker, earning a lot of money, traveling the world, not sitting behind a desk with a boss. That was the basis of the story. What came out of it was, I could not speak. I had to go up afterwards and say, I'm just floored by what you said. And I appreciated it, because we still get self-doubt. No matter who, when, what, or why, we still think, is this working? But you've got to believe in yourself and believe that it will work. It may take time, but it will work. Yeah.
That's the difference between the acorn that you plant and a tomato seed that you plant. The tomato seed will come up very quickly, but hey, it only lasts for a year. The acorn, you need to be patient. And over time, it will grow into that phenomenal oak tree. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you, Kez. Thank you so much for sharing with us your From Page to Stage.
You're welcome.
For now, bye from us.